Tony Will, and I'm back with another amazing episode of Women In with a equally amazing guest. But before I tell you all about her, let me tell you what you're listening to. Women In is a podcast that celebrates women and the individuals in their lives who are lifting them up. You're going to hear from all kinds of super cool people in my life, and they're going to share their stories to inspire others to support the extraordinary women around them. This is a space to be disruptive, forward-thinking, and change agents for humankind. It is uncensored, fun, and curiosity-driven. This is what I'm passionate about, breaking down the barriers for my kids' generation. It's equal parts about my guests and the places we came into each other's lives, whether it be the Kalamazoo Wings, Mindfulness Elevated, Tony Will Coaching, or they happen to be in my family and friends circle. My guest today, and I should have asked before I hit record, Jessica, how do you pronounce your last name? Colarco, okay. Welcome. Jessica is a licensed clinical social worker with over 18 years of experience specializing in anxiety, PTSD, OCD, and panic disorder. She founded her private practice in 2017 and offers both in-person and telehealth therapy to help adults build self-worth, heal from trauma, and thrive. Jessica is the co-creator and co-host of the Chasing Brighter podcast, a midlife guide to purposeful living. She is currently developing online courses on mastering anxiety and healing from trauma to expand access to mental wellness tools. Jessica's work empowers clients to embrace self-care, foster meaningful connections, and live with intention. Hi, Jessica.
Hello, so good to be here.
It's so good to have you on. How does it feel to have your bio read out loud to you live?
Oh, I don't know. It's fine. I'm like, I sure like a lot of people. Are you obsessed with ChatGPT as I am?
Okay, I'm getting there.
Okay.
I've been a little resistant, but I'm close.
I'm telling you, Tony. It's my co-host is my sister for Chasing Brighter podcast, and my sister name is Kelly, and so Kelly and I always joke that it's our assistant, and it's so wonderful. So ChatGPT knows so much about me that I just said, "Hey, can you write a quick bio for me?" And I have other bios, but some things have changed. So it wrote a bio and also added in the bio that I'm a nutrition coach, which I'm not. So then I was like, ChatGPT, I'm not a nutrition coach. But so if you could take that out and rewrite that for me, but it's amazing how it wrote all of that because I use it so much for work that it just knows everything that I do. So
there's a big value in it, as I've been starting to use it for in my day job in pro sports. We have league nominations at the end of the year for different awards, and so I'm like, let me just put this in here, and it made it so much easier.
It's so amazing.
You just throw the words in, like here's the things I want in there, and then
yeah, the more you feed it, and so even for everything, like I'm asked for letters of recommendation, you're asked for different stuff. It's like, hey, I know this person. I think you just can put all the adjectives and then they can make it really nice. And you can say, change the tone. And so, yeah. And and I'm sure you have this a lot. Like I have to give my bio a lot. So maybe I'm numb to hearing it. I don't know. I'm like, oh, that person sounds cool.
My bio is in your inbox, so I sent it yesterday. For next month when I'm on Chasing Brighter podcast. So, but that's in the future. So I asked you a different first question than most, but let's start with how did we meet? So how did we come into each other's lives?
So we know you are on the In Between podcast. And Cassidy Owen also runs Cassidy Lynn Social. And so she hosts In Between podcast. And she is our social media manager. And so she was like, oh my gosh, I had this awesome conversation. I think that Tony would be so great for your podcast. She has a TED Talk. You need to go listen to it. And so that's how we were connected. And I was connected to Cassidy because I go to Pilates and her mom does Pilates. And I'm such a chatty lady. Her mom owns, I don't know if you've been connected with her mom, but her mom owns Warrior Strong Wellness, a supplement company. And so I was talking to her one time at Pilates. I think I was like doing intermittent fasting, or I don't know what I was doing, but I was like, oh, feel kind of lightheaded today. And she was like, did you eat? And I said, well, I just had like my collagen. And she was like, collagen? I sell collagen. And then we were talking about all the supplements we take. And then I was like, I'm launching this podcast. And she goes, oh my gosh, my daughter runs a social media company. So just by being chatty,
I love that.
Meet people, right? I love connecting.
Well, and I love how women lifting women up. And
Yeah.
yeah, so Cassidy, that podcast just released a week ago, the In Between
Hmm.
podcast, and I listened back to it, and I copied the link, sent it to my husband, and I said, I'm really proud of this interview, and I'd like you to listen to it because I don't ask him to listen to everything, just because
Yeah.
when you're interviewed a lot, it's a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
And I go, but Cassidy, and she's younger than me.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Us. Yeah. I'm a Gen Xer.
yeah,
Yeah.
Gen Xer. She's a Gen
Yeah.
Zer, or maybe she's millennial. She might be right in the cusp, but
Yeah.
she's fantastic, and it
Yeah.
was such a great interview, and we connected so well. And she lives in Vegas like you do, and
Hmm.
so off air we were talking about the different weather temperament between
Yes.
Vegas and Michigan.
Well, she lives an amazing life because I'll call her a digital nomad because she also goes, like, I'm always like, where are you? She's like, oh, I'm in Florida for the month, or I'm in Texas for the month. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
That is
One
so
day.
cool. Good for her.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So the power of connection and just sending an email and saying, "Hey Tony, I'd like you to meet," or and that's how these relationships are born. And thank God for technology, because we even before COVID, we wouldn't have been able to do as much of this the way we do now. So
Yeah.
that's how we came into each other's lives. We have yet to meet in person, but I have a feeling we
No.
will one day.
Oh, I'm like, you're in Vegas. I'm like, let me see where I'm going to be. Maybe we can go out to
Yeah.
dinner.
We should, and I will absolutely, because I'll be out in July for a conference for that I'm speaking at, which is just so cool and exciting about women
Yeah.
in sports and things of that
Yeah.
nature. I want to talk about the work that you do. Um, as someone that has struggled with anxiety, panic, I've all the things that are in your bio, and I've talked openly about it because I believe in reducing shame and stigma really around everything.
Absolutely.
The thing that I did, so I stopped drinking almost 5 years ago, and it started off as an experiment. I didn't like my relationship with alcohol, but I wanted to see if my anxiety would lessen. And it
Hmm.
wasn't the first time I quit drinking. Like there's a whole like backstory there. But I tell you what, when I stopped drinking, guess what went away? My
Yeah.
anxiety. But not forever. Like it has resurfaced over the years depending on what's going on in my life. And like my mom passed away 3.5 months ago, and or I mean just during the pandemic. So let's talk about anxiety, because you're an expert in this space, and panic.
Well,
First
first,
off,
I'm
what's the
sorry. Sorry to
difference?
hear about your mom.
Oh, thank
Sorry.
you. Thank you. Yeah, it's grief is that's funny too.
Yeah. Yeah. Up, down, all around.
Yeah, yeah. What's the difference? What would you tell listeners the difference is between anxiety and panic?
Okay. So I would say, are you talking about as far as diagnostics?
Let's start with diagnostic, and then let's go with the actual like
Because
affect.
I think about, so I think stress is acute, right? It's a short term thing, and anxiety would be more chronic that you're experiencing all the time. I think people with anxiety fear the unknown. And so we're always thinking that we can kind of prepare ourselves for the unknown, which can also, lead to isolation or avoiding places. With panic, also acute. So I would say I talk to my clients about, a panic attack versus an anxiety attack. And so a panic attack, and panic is very physical. I get a lot of referrals from cardiologists, from emergency rooms, because people are like, I'm dying. I'm having a heart attack. I can't breathe. My heart is pounding. I'm obviously going to die. And then they'll go, nothing's wrong with their heart. Right. So like, maybe you should go see a therapist. So when that develops into kind of panic disorder, then it's like we'll start avoiding. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go because I'm going to like. It's like we're afraid we're going to totally freak out. We're just going to like lose control in public. Whether we're going to pass out, we're going to faint, we're going to throw up, we're going to have a heart attack, and so then we'll kind of start pulling away from certain places as well. And so like an anxiety attack, I think is kind of like just we're having like a freak out and we're spiraling and our brain is swirling, but not as physical.
Yeah, so you described that panic attack, the acute panic attack. That's what I
Hmm.
experienced when I was 30. I think I was 32 or 33 the first time.
Yeah.
And the way I describe it is it felt like a lightning bolt went through my body all the way through my toes, and then my
Yeah.
heart rate just
It's
accelerated.
scary.
Very scary. And I couldn't get it back under control. So what ended up happening was my assistant at the time, I was working in banking way back then, took me to the ER, and they thought I was having a heart attack. And but they kept saying like, she's young, I work out all the time and it ended up after all of that, they're like, yeah, you just had a panic attack.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh. And I didn't feel shame around it, but it was like, I literally thought I was gonna
Yeah.
die.
And it's really interesting because a lot of my clients get second and third opinions because it's so physical. They're like, no, I know, but I'm just gonna go one more doctor because I think something's wrong with my heart. Because it's so physical, it's hard. Because basically what we're hearing is, and maybe this is yours, but like it's in your head then. I mean, if that's anxiety, then you can control it. So it's all in your head. But it's so physical and so scary.
It was, and I mean, it is seared into my memory. Now, I thought this was interesting, even back then, because I'll be 47 next week, so that was a long time ago that this
Mm.
happened. But even then, they didn't ask me about my substance use, so no one was asking me, well, how much are you drinking?
But did they ask you what was the first date of your last period?
100%. Yes, Jessica.
I'm dying, but we need to know.
I know, and I'm sitting there going, well, I don't have my period because I have an IUD, and they don't care about anything else. And I'm like, isn't it funny?
Yeah,
Like,
no, yeah. That's so funny. I told my daughter, I took her, I don't know, I started taking her, went to the doctor, and I was like, okay, they're going to start asking you, like, no matter what, you need to start knowing the first date of your last period because it doesn't matter, but they're going to ask you that.
yeah, and when your last bowel movement was.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But how about you
But
ask
it's
me?
interesting, right? Like, not a holistic approach, right? Like, what's your lifestyle? What's your sleeping? Like, yeah. What are you
Yeah,
ingesting?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so that kind of started like my journey with um, understanding anxiety, the difference between anxiety and fear,
Hmm.
and then how to manage it. And I have all kinds of different tools in my toolkit to manage it, like the
Yeah.
acute stuff. So I used to get, so I'll give you an example. I used to get a lot of anxiety when flying. And I'm sure, I know I'm not alone in that. A lot of people don't necessarily love to be in a metal tube 35,000
Absolutely.
feet above the ground. And so I would do things like on the back of the seat on the airplane, it says flotation device, da da da. So I would read the letters backwards.
Yeah.
Or I'd look at the colors around the plane, whatever people are wearing,
Those
and
are
I would
grounding techniques.
yes, and I would do that. Or I'd say the alphabet, but I would go
Yeah.
through the produce section of the grocery store, apple, banana,
Yeah.
cantaloupe. So what are some tools that you recommend? Because you're doing workshops in this space and you're creating, I mean, you have your own business that you've had for going on 8 years now in this. So what are some techniques you help people put in their personal toolkit to manage anxiety?
Well, like what I was saying is what you're talking about, grounding techniques, right? So grounding techniques really bring us to the present. And so I think about a lot of people with anxiety are the what ifs, right? I have 3 children, a couple of them have anxiety. My youngest is always what if, right? What if I go to school and I'm wearing the wrong thing and then I'm going to get in trouble? What if, what if, what if? So that's us living in the future, right? And so it's like, how do we practice living in the present and bring us back to the right now? And that is what grounding does. Think about your feet on the ground, being right in the moment. So there are a lot of great grounding techniques. Like you were talking about the alphabet, counting backwards by 100 by sevens, listing categories, listing your favorite movies, just kind of listing things. One of my favorites is 5 4 3 2 1 grounding, where have you heard of that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one. Actually, it was really good for my kids for tantrums. If you have young children, mine aren't young anymore, but
Now,
what's five? It's we think of the 5 senses. I tell my clients it doesn't matter which you do, but it's five. List 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And so then I'll even tell clients like have gum with you, have mints with you, have different things with you. That way, you can pop something in your mouth and then you start describing it to yourself like, oh, this is a mint. It's hard. It's cool. We can grab anything like you were saying. Okay, I'm going to read a cereal box. I'm going to grab I'll grab this pen. Look at the pen. It's black. It's rubber. It's squishy, right? Kind of start listing things. So I think grounding is really good. And I think about intervention versus prevention, right? So we've got intervention, which we're talking about. You're right in the middle of it. You're having really high anxiety. You maybe feel panic coming on. What do we do right away, right then, to kind of bring you back down? And then we also have, prevention, which is like the wellness piece. How are you sleeping? How are you eating? Are you moving your body? Are you connecting with others? Kind of the lifestyle component. And then also with intervention, we have the sympathetic nervous system, which we think about foot on the gas, and we have the parasympathetic nervous system, foot on the brake. And this is where, you know, trauma kind of comes in because we have triggers that might be triggering anxiety for us, different things that might be triggering anxiety for us. And, trauma changes our brain. But if we think about the sympathetic nervous system with our rational brain offline, right? So we can talk rationally about all these techniques, but then if your rational brain goes offline, it's very difficult to think of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding.
Yes.
And so the first thing we want to do is like kick that parasympathetic nervous system in and get your foot on the brake. And so that can be breathing, going for a walk. I love which, I don't know, I would probably do it in public, but, lay on your back with legs up the wall, like yoga pose. And so learning, I think I talk with my clients. The first thing we want to learn is what works for you for self-soothing and what works for you to get your rational brain right back online first.
Yeah.
And then we can, explore other techniques.
Yeah, and tell me if I'm not an expert in any of this. I read a lot of books, but I'm armchair psychologist for sure. But the regulation versus dysregulation,
Mm-hmm.
kind of the same language. I
Mm-hmm.
learned about the brain analogy. For those not watching this, like
Yeah.
I'd have my fist and the thumb in here is the amygdala. Prefrontal cortex goes offline, flip the lid is essentially that's what we're saying, because we're not thinking with the front.
Yeah.
Now we're kicked into fight or freeze.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I get my lid back down?
Yeah.
And so another tool in the old
Yeah,
tool
no,
belt.
I love that. I'm so fascinated with the brain. And I would say over the past few years, um I was trained in brain spotting, which is a brain-based intervention. It is a flow of EMDR, which people are more familiar with. And EMDR is another brain-based intervention. And the guy, Dr. David Gran, he kind of created what he was calling natural flow EMDR, and then it just kept changing. So now it's called brain spotting. And so brain spotting, we talk about kind of like where you look is how you feel. And as you go through the life cycle, different things happen to you and they can become encapsulated at that place in time, and your brain. And we call that the brain spot. And so we kind of frame up an issue and you look, you follow a pointer and we find the brain spot. And it's not a talk-based intervention. You're talking about the prefrontal cortex, like the talking, thinking part of our brain. We want to access a different part of your brain. And so that has been really fascinating and interesting to introduce into therapy because, it's like we can, again, process it, through the rational thinking part of our brain. But, the amygdala holds on to trauma too.
Yeah. How fast? I've never heard of brain spotting. And I too am obsessed with all things brain health. I really started to study it more when my mom's Alzheimer's diagnosis picked up steam and I was trying to understand it better. And to your point earlier about preventative health, because when you watch someone literally die from Alzheimer's, which is because my parents live here in Michigan with me, that you quickly learn you do not want to die this way.
Yeah.
And it's not lifestyle choices play a role in this.
Absolutely. So, more and more research coming out about that. Like, did you ever read Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep?
No, but I'm writing.
And his research at the Berkeley Sleep Center is connecting Alzheimer's and dementia to sleep deprivation, and he's saying you're sleep deprived if you're getting less than 7 hours on average, and how sleep is at the core of our health and wellness. And I've seen, I cannot think of his name, but there is a physician that is reversing Alzheimer's with patients by extreme lifestyle changes, which is fascinating. They just had a study about vitamin D reducing, it's just all of these things that's so fascinating. And I too, like, my co-host Kelly and I are obsessed with longevity, and I'm joking, like, I want to live forever. My husband's like, shoot me after 80. He's like, I don't even want, and I'm like, oh, like, I want to get into the hundreds. Let's go.
Oh, this can be me, you, and Kelly, sister. So
Yeah,
I can't
that's
wait to
right.
talk about that because I have you heard of 4K weeks?
Oh yeah, with a
Yeah.
book like Alec Berkman's book, Oliver Berkman's book.
Well, no, it's like this
Oh,
poster I have. Or I'm gonna. I have
oh, that we
less
have
than
an average. Is that because we have an average? We live an average of 4,000 weeks. Is that what you're
yeah.
saying?
So this
Yeah,
that my husband calls it my death calendar.
yeah,
And so you go on there and you buy it. It's, I don't know, $25 or $15. I can't remember how much.
yeah,
For it's and not that my podcast is sponsored because it's not, that's not why I do this, but
yeah.
4kweeks.com. And you choose, do you want to have your poster be till you live till 88, 100, or 125?
Oh yeah. You have
I,
125, right?
I do not. I
Oh
did 100.
no, 100. Come on. I just want to, even if it's like 100 in like one day, I just want to kick over a little past the 100.
There's a little room at the bottom, so I'll go there with you. Uh, but I have this. So every Sunday, you fill in a dot that you've had,
Yeah.
and then so what it helps you do is you look at this. So if I'm going to live to 100, I'm coming up on 47, my birthday next week, so I can make decisions like, okay, this is, you just see how much is left, and do I want to spend my time doing this or
Yeah.
whatever, like helping make decisions. I too am obsessed with all things longevity, health span versus lifespan,
Yeah.
and all that. Have you read Outlive by Peter Attia?
No, but I've listened to a lot of The Drive.
Yeah,
And
so
there's a book. Yeah, I was got it right. Oliver Berkman called 4,000 Weeks. And it's about how we live to an average of 80, and that is 4,000 weeks in our life. And it's all kind of about the subtitle is Time Management for Mere Mortals. And it's like, oh, this is a time management book, but it's basically like you need to get your goals in line with what you want to do. And it's not about productivity, how much can I do, but it's about saying no to a lot of things. So you can say yes to what's really important to you because you only have a certain amount of time here on Earth. So
that's
yeah.
exactly it. And the other thing, I've never swung my camera around for a podcast. So if anyone
Yeah.
just listens to this and you're like, what is she pointing to? Just go to YouTube channel and watch it.
Yes.
I have my battle board up too, and that is specific to the goals that I set for myself each year. I start with a 1 year vision worksheet
Yeah.
and I break it down. Um, so what are some things you're personally doing to live to 100 years plus one day?
Okay. Well, sleep is very important over here. So I am in bed very early. And sorry, I drink a ton of water. I think water is the life source and water solves everything. And if my children have any aches and pains, my first question is, have you been drinking water? I take a lot of supplements. I take vitamin D, vitamin C, multivitamin, collagen. Um, I take iodine working with blood work with my physician. So I love like blood work, getting blood work specific to you and then reflecting on what your body might need. Probiotics, a lot of protein. I do Pilates reformer 3 days a week, and then I have a trainer and I do heavy lifting 2 to 3 days a week. And then I try to do yoga for mind body health. And I think I know you're an avid reader and I just keep talking about books, but there's a great book, The Good Life. Have you read The Good Life?
Haven't, I'm
And
writing that down too.
it's the world's longest longitudinal study on happy, or the world's longest longitudinal study period. And it started in like 1919, and they're studying the descendants of the original people, and they pulled out information for who was kind of happy. And the key to happiness is connection. And I so believe that, and I see that in my practice. And so I think it's really important to maintain healthy relationships. And so it is important for me to get out and about and, connect with people.
What do you do with your nutrition? We know in your bio that
Yeah.
ChatGPT tried to put that in there for you, but
Yes.
is there a certain style of eating you do?
I love, I think like, so, and I talked about it a lot in a season of the podcast where I have, after having kids, my weight has been all over the place. And so I just was dieting all the time and dieted up. So I had to like retrain my brain that there's no good or bad and food is okay, and to kind of listen to your body to eat. And right now, I am on a weight loss. Like my weight has just really, it's very confusing because I am incredibly active. My weight just like has really gone up the past few years. So I am full disclosure, like using semaglutide to
Mhm.
lose weight. I am working closely with a nurse practitioner,
Mhm.
going very slowly. Like I just had a talk with her yesterday
Yeah.
because, there are people that just drop like 50 pounds and you're like, oh my God. But I'm like very intentional and so I've lost 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And so I don't eat a lot, but I love the 30-33 rule, where your first meal of the day is 30 grams of protein, you have 30 grams of fiber, and you have 3 servings of probiotic. And so really just kind of focusing on protein, high fiber, rich foods, nutrient rich foods. And just kind of, so it's not like I'm following anything necessarily, just trying to prioritize protein. And obviously, whole foods. Like if I read something a long time ago, if someone from any time in history saw your plate, would they know what you were eating? And I think that's cool, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's a great
um,
question. Yeah.
yeah, and I have I worked with a dietitian in 2018, so I have what do I want to say, food sensitivity, so I don't have gluten or dairy,
Okay.
so that's taken off the plate for me. So
Yeah, and I like to ask that because I experiment with lots of different. I went for a period of time, 2 years, where I didn't drink caffeine. I went for a period of time that I was vegetarian, then pescatarian, then I touched on veganism, and then I did a plant slant. Like
yeah,
I kind of, pick and choose, and I just went back in January to eating meat again, and
yeah,
just to see how I felt. I
yeah,
did notice when I quit eating meat, my like inflammation immediately. Like my hands weren't, I don't know, you could just
yeah.
tell like the swollen. It's pretty fascinating when you have that experimental mindset to.
Yeah, well, and I think too, like what, and this is where, like, as a therapist, I don't know, on social media, like therapists are always like, these are the 4 things you need to do to reduce anxiety, or these are the, whatever. And I'm like, dude, we're all unicorns, right?
Exactly.
Like work works for me doesn't work for you. And especially when I met with a dietitian, it was like taking everything out of my diet and reintroducing it. And I think when you mess around with things like that, like you're saying, oh, there's like total inflammation. Like I talk about, I had like sinus infections a lot before I took out gluten and dairy. And the dietitian was like, well, yeah, like you get inflammation. And so I'll notice with different things, like like my nose gets stuffy.
Hmm.
So let's say, and I don't really drink very much anymore, but I love a cocktail out at a restaurant.
Hmm.
So if I plan something and we're going somewhere, I'd rather do that. Like I don't really drink at home, or, I don't really drink very much. But if I had, like, let's say I had 2 glasses of something, my nose might get stuffy.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, or there might be something in that drink that, and so just noticing, I don't think I realized how terrible I felt. And I had to fill like a 20-page questionnaire. It was a functional dietitian. And then I was like, oh, I feel like crap. I'm bloated all the time, like just, you don't realize this. Then when you feel really good, when you introduce something, or like I'll know, like, I can't have dairy because I don't have ice cream. And we were a huge ice cream family growing up. We would buy giant things of ice cream from Schwann's that would
Oh yeah.
come to your house. And I love ice cream. And it's like, if I don't have ice cream, that must make me feel terrible because, but it's like, it's not worth feeling like crap. And I think that's like with drinking too. Like, it's not worth feeling like crap. That's not worth it to me. When you are in tune with your body, it's like, well, I don't want those things.
Exactly. Wild horses couldn't drag me back to alcohol, but
Yeah.
20 party time, she sure loved it. So
Yeah.
that was a whole other part,
Yeah.
and it can change. We can change. Here's the thing: we can
Yeah.
change anything in our lives that we want to. And going back to the brain, it's that neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
But it is work. This is not. It's not like giving up dairy was easy for you.
Yeah.
It can be really challenging to change, and it is all choices around, like, do I want to live a full life? And really, the premise of Peter Attia's book and the podcast, The Drive, is talking about how do you want your last 10 years of your life to be? We don't know when that date is, our death date.
Yeah.
But in the last 10 years, do we want to be sitting in a lazy boy, just, watching Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy? Or do we want to be active and, connected with people and doing the things we love as best we can? And
Yeah.
so it's making choices now, yesterday, next week, that are getting us to those last 10 years of fulfillment and not just waiting.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's investing in yourself now. And I love, yeah. And I think this resonates with a lot of people, but I think especially for women, um, in kind of our body culture and what we weigh and what we look like and all of those things. I think if that's our why, right? So like I've heard women tell me like, oh well, I'm in my 40s now. I'm not going to try new things. Or I'm in my 40s now. I'm not going to be in a bikini. I don't. And it's like if that's your why, that's going to be really hard to stick to lifestyle changes. But it's like I work out for my mental health. I don't care. And the workout has nothing to do with the way I weigh or whether clothes fit me. Like absolutely for my mental health. I'm at a small Pilates yoga studio. I know everybody there. There is something to be said. Um, about a smaller gym. I really advocate for that because then you know people and they know you and they can touch you if it's okay with touch, but let me move you. You're not doing that right. And then lifting heavy weights, like that's just, I'm building skeletal muscle and investing in my body. And I love, like my kids are like, oh my gosh, like I was telling my 14-year-old, like I deadlifted 155 today. I moved up to my personal best. And he was like, I already deadlift 155, mom. And I'm like, oh, how many do you do? How many sets are you doing? And he's like 3 sets of 10. I'm like, okay, well, I get, but it's like, I love that too. Like just being strong and they know me, like they know I'm a beast and my daughter's done my workouts with me and she's an athlete and she's like, mom, I can't do this. So
That's
it's
so cool.
cool. When you become older, particularly when you become a mom, you lose parts of yourself. And it's like, that's mine, right? That's the part of myself that's totally mine. It has nothing to do with anybody. And I think that's great to have those things too.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the women in your life. And in particular, I mean, you've named some, your sister, your daughter. I'm sure there's more, but who are the women that have helped make Jessica the Jessica you are today?
Yeah. My mother is amazing. We had her on the podcast for a Mother's Day episode, and I was just talking with a client about it because it's really kind of fascinating, right? So I think it's like, let's say 65% of pregnancies in America are unplanned,
Hmm.
right? And so think about that, right? And how I don't know, just we were asking my mom, right? She was a mother when women couldn't have bank accounts yet, right? They couldn't have their own bank accounts. And it was like, Mom, did you want to be a mother? Or was that just like, that's just what women do, right? There's no choice, and that's just what women do. And she was like, I wanted to be, like I could not wait. Your dad and I went to the appointment to find out if we were pregnant. And just to imagine, right? My life started out with two people who wanted me,
Yes.
right? So that's like going to be a whole different life anyway. And so my mom has four sisters and my dad has four sisters. We have a very female heavy family, a very strong aunts who are amazing and do really amazing things. And so just kind of being surrounded by so many strong women. My grandmother was really incredible. Um, kind of demonstrating self-care. My mom would talk about, oh, she had like a bowling league and she had this and she had that. And she was like, peace out to my grandpa. He was stuck with the six kids. Well, it was like, wow, look, she had self-care. And she also, I got to spend a lot of time with her before she passed. She would come out here and to, hear her story of being, a strong woman was really cool. And I keep a close circle of really amazing friends. I think like you're talking about, I like to surround myself with people who know we're all on a journey, right? And we're all just trying our best.
Yeah.
And people who are authentic and vulnerable with me. And as I've gotten older, the circle's gotten smaller. But I love having a strong group of female friends. And then just over the years, maintaining those friendships, right? So I have friendships across the country of really amazing women who I've met through my education, through work. And so I just think maintaining those relationships is really important.
Yeah. I love the tribe that has been
Yeah.
part of your life and help shape you to who you are today. So going in the same kind of line of question, if you will, how do you lift women up so you're paying it forward for all those
Hmm.
women that helped you become who you are and still are? Because we're not even
Yeah.
halfway. You're not even halfway through your 4K week, so
No, no, just getting started.
just
I'm such a dreamer. I do you feel like I just want to do like I want to have like 10 million jobs. I have five more lives I need to live.
Oh, 100%. The most recent thing, just as a sidebar, in my crazy brain sometimes, is I want to create a caftan line. And so I want
That's
to
awesome.
get my sewing machine out. And not that I can sew, I can't, but I got my mother's when she passed
Yeah.
away. And so I want to sew caftans and sell them online. That's my
That's
new crazy thing.
amazing. That's amazing. Okay. Well, I have a pool. I'd love a good captain to hang
Well,
out around the
and Vegas
summer.
is perfect for caftans,
Yes,
by the way.
absolutely.
So
I
if
can
I
plug
do,
your business. I can get you some sources here.
well, listen, we
I
may
know.
bring this to life.
Yes, there's a little a place in downtown Vegas, like the Arts District Vegas, for the Love Little Boutique. So we could hook you up with Emily Johnson there and sell your kitchen
Don't
line
get me
right there.
started just
Okay.
because I make shit happen.
And I'm like, you could have sports themes, some of
Oh,
them, right? Like we got some hockey, get some Vegas
oh.
Golden Knights captains going on. There you
And
go.
you know, I've been to some of those games. Oh my gosh, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you you lifted
Yeah.
my fake
Yeah.
caftan business
Okay.
up? There's a perfect example.
So I do like right promoting and plugging like I love and my sister as well. We're very resourceful, right? We read a ton. We love research, we love facts, we love studies. And so we kind of were a resource for our friends, right? Where'd you get that? Where'd you buy that? How'd you find that? Where's a doctor? How do you get a therapist?
Mhm.
And so like we found that we were always kind of telling people that. And so that's where we started the podcast. And so for us, the podcast is to read, right, to lift all women and to talk about midlife can be an amazing, beautiful time. Like I joke, but I have no more like F's to give, right? So it's so amazing, that it's just like, here I am, take it or leave it, and just having that confidence. But that's not necessarily a given for women in midlife. And so to help guide women into like, hey, this can be the best part of your life. Here are some tips and tools and resources to give that out. So the podcast is a big way there. Personally, I've been really inspired over this past year, and my brain is ruminating on, I want to do some kind of, I don't know, some kind of connection for women business owners.
Mhm.
I don't know whether that's just like a meet and greet, open house. I just moved office locations in December, so now I kind of have a suite to myself. So is it utilizing that space to gather women? And so just personally, like you and I are talking, like trying to plug the women I know and their businesses or what they're doing and guiding them and helping them in that way, or like on a larger scale, the podcast.
I love that. Let's talk about your podcast a little bit. You launched it with your sister,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and you already described it's about uplifting women up in midlife and how
Mm-hmm.
this is a beautiful stage of life. And as I have already talked about my age a couple times,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now that being in my 40s is fucking awesome.
Yeah. I love it.
And I do too. Like I'm so much smarter and like
Yeah.
my kids are 23, 21, and my youngest graduates from high school next week. She's 18.
Oh my God.
And I love them so much, but I'm so
Yes.
glad I'm not in that age range anymore.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, like this is the
Yeah.
bomb right now. And
Yeah.
I only think it's going to get better. So talk about like, who are your guests? Like what type of women are you having on the podcast? Do you have men on too? You said seasons, so I'm intrigued. Like,
Hmm.
how do you set that up? I want to know about.
We just finished season 3. We're prepping for season 4, and we're going to be kind of changing some things around. So I've been wanting to start a podcast for a long time because I have a lot to say. I have a lot to say. And so my sister was we had like kind of during the pandemic had kind of gone through individual therapy, couples therapy, like shit was hitting the fan. We were healing. And and so I there was someone else who kind of talking about a podcast, but my sister owns her own business, and she owns her own consulting company, and she was like, I kind of want to do something else. And so she was looking at, how people kind of sell clothing in your house,
Yeah,
whatever, like Tupperware, but clothing.
yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, she was like, I'm going to do that. I don't know. I just want to do something creative. And at the same time, I was like, let's do a podcast together. Let's just do this. And so we started recording. Really, like we're just talking about. I don't know. That's kind of how I am. She wanted to analyze it for 6 years, but I was like, let's just record it and post it and see what happens. So we just started having people in our life, just kind of talking about different stuff. We kind of talked about the first season about being on a journey, right? Like we talked about our spiritual journey. We had a once a month book club talking about books that we were reading. And then we started interviewing people, but we actually have a lot of solo episodes. So we do monthly themes. And so our monthly theme for May was on like modern motherhood. We've talked about mothering yourself, redefining what it means to be a good mom. We talked, about how American mothers are the most unhappy mothers
Mm-hmm.
and what we can kind of do about it. In June, we're going to be talking about like a reset, how to have like a nice, restful summer. We'll do organizational and planning stuff usually August, September. So then we will have our guests will be, for the most part, they've been women, but we had some amazing, I think in season 2, we talked about raising teens and we had some amazing 2 male therapists, teen therapists. So I'm not opposed to having men on. It just kind of depends uh, on what the topic is and if we want to have an expert on. And then we actually drop 2 episodes a week. And one episode is called Superwoman Diaries. And it's just us talking about what we're doing, what we're reading, what's going on in our lives. To continue, when you have a podcast, you kind of create a very intimate relationship with your listeners, right? And so listeners of podcasts tend to like buy 75% of what, not that we're selling anything at the time, but like whatever you're selling, right? But like, oh, we're reading a book, we're telling you this, we're giving you resources because you have created this relationship where you really trust this person. And so we have quite a bit of solo episodes. And then I think for season 4, what we want to transition to is our Superwoman Diaries are going to be where the interviews are, just kind of talking about the super women in our lives and things like that. So
That's so cool. I love the work you all are doing. And for the record, you and I are exactly alike when it comes to, well, let's just record and see what
yeah,
happens.
yeah.
I dreamt this baby up and had it out in the world within 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And when people say, I think I want to do a bubble, I'm like, do it. Post it on YouTube. The end. Wow, you have a podcast. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to get all techie and stuff if you don't want to, just record it and post it somewhere. And you're a
Exactly.
podcaster.
Exactly. It's funny because my husband launched his podcast this week. So, and it's like your sister. He analyzes it 6 ways
Yes.
to Sunday, and I'm like, Josh, just get it, birth the baby, birth the baby.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just so happy for him because just to see him accomplish it, I was like, that's so cool. But
Yeah.
we are polar opposites when it comes to that.
Yes. Well, and that's how Kelly and I work. We've had some aches and pains. People are like, I wish I was as close to my sister as you are. And it's like, yeah, but I was not perfect, right? Like we're not like she's a spreadsheet gal. She's a consultant. She likes to analyze and I'm a doer. I'm like, let's just let's just
Yep.
do it. I want to do it. I'm the producer, the doer, and she's the planner. But that's good, right? It's a nice balance.
It is, and we need that. I think it's really helpful because if we just kept doing and not,
Yeah, I'm kind of I think I'm manic. I've decided I think I'm kind of manic. I mean, I have a lot of energy and I do a lot and I go, 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 go. And that can be exhausting for the people in my life. Like my husband, he's good. He pulls me down. So I'm like, and then we can have a house in Europe. These are tales like maybe we can retire in Costa Rica. People are retiring in Costa Rica. Did you hear about that? Like we'll live there. And he's like, oh my God, calm down.
if you put the two of us together at a coffee shop, I think
Oh my God, we would plan. Oh, we have so many plans. 5 businesses given, 5 businesses created at that time.
in less than an hour. I have
Absolutely.
no doubt. Okay, so I want to know what you are, what you're reading right now.
Okay. I am psycho and I am always like listening to a book and reading a book. And a lot of times there are either like a long drawn out saga I might need to take a break from in a book, or if it's a heavy intellectual reading, take a break. So I am reading Martha Beck's book, Beyond Anxiety, about kind of creativity, healing anxiety, but that's going to be just kind of chipping away there. And then I am reading The Berry Pickers, which is kind of, a long family saga, which is, there's death and sadness in it.
Yeah.
So I'm chipping away at that. I'm reading the Fourth Wing series.
Oh,
Do you ever read fantasy or a teen? Like,
I do. I'm reading
yeah.
Sookie Stackhouse, the True Blood series. I've been reading that for the last year and a half. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm on the 3rd book, but what I found was like I have to read before bed. That's my wind down routine. I read before bed. It shifts my focus from life into the world of the book. So in the Fourth Wing series, they are at war and people are dying all the time. And I was noticing that I was not sleeping very well because I was reading, I need to make sure this person doesn't die. And I kept reading more and more chapters, and I was realizing like I was solving the war in my sleep. And so I am like kind of taking a break from that. And then I'm listening to I told you, is it called Great American Circus?
Oh, okay. No,
It's so what's so crazy, my husband is from Somers, New York,
mhm.
and this author he actually went to high school with, and he gifted me a book of the month club for Christmas 2 years in a row. Oh, home of the American Circus. And so Somers, if any, because I know this, right, is like where supposedly the first elephant came to America and a farmer shot it. This is the claim to fame in Somers, which I thought was hysterical.
That's
So, like,
interesting.
that was their high school mascot, the Tuskers. They have a statue of elephant in the town. I used to buy him little elephants when we were dating. I thought it was hysterical. Like they're proud of this, whatever, this
Yeah.
weird thing. So, the author was a few years older than him in high school, and she actually wrote another book, which I can't think of, but I was like a huge bestseller.
Okay.
And so this book is set in Somers. And I was like, oh my gosh, this book is set in Somers. And so it's so crazy. And I'll ask him, oh my gosh, this, and so I'm in love. This book is really, really good. And I was like, they're at Christie's, the grocery store. And is this restaurant still there? And so that's just kind of crazy. You know what I mean? Just like
Yeah,
he's such like a small random town that the book is set in. So that's really good.
that is
That's what
so
I'm reading.
cool. When my book comes out, which is Q1 of this coming year, I hope you
Okay.
will read it.
Absolutely. I'm excited. I love supporting. I'm also reading, and I'll put another Start Your Second Act. My friend Shannon Russell just wrote and launched her book. She just launched it. And I was something on TikTok was like, if a friend you know writes a book, buy it to support them. And so absolutely I want to buy it and read it and support you. And maybe we'll have you back on the podcast to talk about your book.
Yeah, because it actually aligns with the the why behind your podcast. It's
Yeah.
about women
Yeah.
in midlife, and it kind of takes my TEDx talk and builds on it. I'll give you a little teaser. It opens with my arrest in 2016.
Yeah.
So it's and then it kind of goes from there. But it's not just a memoir. It's how to make the changes in your life based
Yeah.
on stories in my life, and how I've worked, the different tools and all the different things. Like, so I will be very excited once it's out in the world
That's
'cause,
amazing.
yeah,
That's on my to do. So many, I want to write a book. I have Kelly and I have talked about one for Chasing Better, but then I'm like, not even like a book, but even like writing some workbooks,
yeah, yep.
for anxiety. I think that kind of gets me into my obsession with, I listen to podcasts and I love Tara Brach's podcast. Have you read Radical Acceptance?
I no, I have not read. I don't think I
I
have.
just want to
No.
like copy the chapter on fear. She has this chapter on fear that I'm obsessed with, especially in the anxiety work. Um, but like making place for fear, right? Just
Ooh,
inviting fear and having
yeah.
fear set by us. I think we avoid. But I say Tara Brach because kind of um, hopping on what you were talking about, I'm primarily a cognitive behavioral therapist. And so our thoughts create our feelings, which then impact our behaviors. So the story we tell ourselves, our narrative creates our own reality,
Hmm.
right? So if we're operating off of distortions, we're going to have a distorted reality. And so she is a psychologist and a meditation coach, a meditation teacher. And her podcast talks a lot about, she has a lot of different episodes about how our thoughts create our reality. And so absolutely we can change, right? But it has to change with like the story we're telling ourselves. And if we're operating, I think a lot of this, and in the book Radical Acceptance, she talks about that, we're operating off of worthlessness, right?
Mm.
We operate of the core of ourself being unworthy. And so if we can kind of check like what's the story we're telling ourselves, and really get in tune with like even tools for anxiety, like journaling, like kind of journaling. And even with your book, that reminds me, I don't know how you feel about being a parent of young adults, but don't you just want to like touch your forehead to theirs, and then they can just through osmosis learn all of life's lessons and know everything that your book says, and then they'll make all the right decisions.
Oh, 100%. And my husband even more than me because I'm a lot more laid back, but he's just like, Tony, I'm like, you can't make them. They're just gonna have to figure it
Yeah.
out. Like, but I
Yeah.
do. I would like them to absorb what's in this bionic
Yes.
hamster brain of mine.
Yes. And then you don't have to watch them experience pain, like
Exactly.
just do it this way. You'll be fine.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
But we
Well, we
can
can
tell
keep
that.
talking
Yeah.
all day long, but this has been so amazing, and I'm excited to be a guest on your podcast
Yeah.
and
So excited to have
continue to
you.
watch your work and meet you in person. If my listeners want to connect with you and find your work, where can they do that?
So everything podcast related is at Chasing Brighter. That's the handle on all the places. We're on wherever you get podcasts. We're there. We're on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and our website chasingbrighter.com. We have a weekly blog post as well. And Also for my practice, it's Jessica Colarco, LCSW, licensed clinical social worker. I'm at social media at Jessica Colarco, LCSW, and you can find me.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for coming on Women In and being a new amazing woman in my circle, and excited to when I'm out in July, let's get together.
Yes, yes. Send me the dates. I can see if I'm here, hopefully.
I
I'm
will.
not
I'll email you
watching
the date.
baseball in the desert somewhere.
Yeah. Yes. Perfect. If anyone's looking to connect with me, I'm not hard to find either. I'm not on TikTok, although maybe I need to hire Cassidy to get me on TikTok. But I am on LinkedIn and Facebook at Tony Lentini Will, and on Instagram I'm Tony Will, and then websites are mindfulnesselevated.com, TonyWillCoaching.com, and if you want the hockey side of my life, kwings.com. And until next time.